What's up, guys? I figured I'd do a quick video about how I've proved the biggest problem in traditional martial arts and YouTube and the collective. It's you guys. And you'd be like, what do you mean? And I know it's hard to hear, but my channel, my previous videos has really exposed a serious problem in our society. You know, I've had this channel for 5 to 7 years. Okay, I've been doing martial arts my entire life. You know, on paper, okay, I'm like, you know, I should be the golden child of Tai Chi here, okay, on paper. I put out, you know, my channel was always geared to movement geeks, you know, like in the Tai Chi, like the people who who were into martial arts because they love to study, you know? Because how many reasons do you get into martial arts? You get into martial arts because you want to learn how to fight and defend yourself and defend other people. You know, and there's people, you know, get into because they like the sport. But the people who really stay, or really, they're movement geeks, you know? It's the why things work, you know? It's the puzzle and the interest in the mechanics of something, right? It doesn't matter what style. Why do people stay with style? Because they want to, what's the next thing I can, what's the next box they can figure out how to use, you know? What's the next trick? What's the next thing? How do I make that thing better? How does that thing work? And I don't see many of those people, okay? When I put out a video talking about technique here or there, nobody really shares. I know there's people, you know, that really avidly go out of their way, but nobody has gone out of their way to share. And I've asked for help, you know, with the channel, because obviously that my channel has been suppressed beyond belief, right? And everybody knows how that works. Nobody. I asked for help, you know, with the Discord channel. A couple people accepted, but nobody. When I put out a video talking shit, that's when people will share it, right? So basically what you're telling me is you don't really care about technique. You don't really care about, you know, what is actually gonna, you know, make you a better martial artist or your study. You don't care who's actually legitimately, you know, qualified. You know, it's not even a sport to most of the people that are most of the people that are interacting. It's not even a sport to them. It's just something they do on the weekend. You know, even that, you know, I think a lot of people who comment with negative comments at all, the few that are left, they're not even really martial artists. I think they're just trolls. I actually think that some of these guys, their channels aren't as big as they say they are. I think that a lot of these guys, their channels are inflated by bots, and they have a small collective of people they keep in like a Discord or a Facebook group, and they have sock puppet accounts, and it'll be the same person talking. You know, I think that the community has been more fractured and smaller than people think it is. I just think there's a big problem, you know, that there's not enough people who are just in general interested in being above average or studying or excelling at anything or anything at remote learning. You know, there's very few people that are interested. So we have a serious dilemma, you know, and then it goes on because this has been the degradation society, and I, you know, being Generation I grew up with people who were still, you know, who were alive in the late 1800s. I met people who were still alive in 1890. You know what I mean? You know, so I've had a very interesting position to live through. Whereas when I was coming through the ranks, and I got, you know, I started teaching when I was 16 at my first school. Like my teacher says that teachers are born, they're not made. So he selected the people who he thought would be, you know, geared to teaching, and he select them and he forced them. So with me, he wanted me to start teaching immediately. So at 16, I started my own school. So as I noticed the change, like in the late 80s, when I was young, and I would go into a school, it was still, you know, even the commercial school still had the respect thing, and your rank meant something, you know, like you even in the kiddie classes in the 80s and the early 90s, it was still hard, like, you know, like it was different, you know what I mean? And I also was lucky, because well, unlucky that I had brutal teachers, like a lot of good teachers, and they were brutal. Like I was 12, 13, I was training in the Browns Recreational Center in Aki Jiu-Jitsu, and they didn't treat me like a little boy, let me tell you. So I was coming up through this time where the old ways was still alive, but it was the last generation. So when it's my come up, the next generation didn't have the basic moral ethics or diligence or basic self-discipline. I mean, just like basic fundamentals of honor and discipline that a normal human being in society that's functional should have. They were losing that. And that's actually bled upward, because I've seen the degradation in teaching, because it's a circular, the world's eating its tail, you know, where the student, like my teacher was like, you know, even he teaching private, the next generation, he was saying like there's something wrong, like they're genetically different, like they're not built the same, they're not as strong as us, they're like, the bones aren't, and I could see from generation before us that they were just built different, you know. And we're seeing that like, mentally they weren't as strong. Like we could not, like, you know, when my team would get like, you know, someone's nephew or cousin, and you're like, oh, we want to teach them the real stuff, so we take them in. And we're noticing like we can't train them the same way. Like their brains don't function the same way as we do. And then 10 years goes by, and I'm seeing the other schools are starting to adapt to the students changing. So now the teachers are like, oh well, I can't teach them like that. And that was already going on since the 80s of, oh, I can't because they'll quit or I'll get sued or this, and then it gets worse and worse. But this was something different. This is like a degradation of moral fabric of society, and it's like there's nothing to work with. There's nothing to mold. So when I'm coming up, I'm noticing like I should be getting a lot more respect than I'm getting when I walk. Because like, you know, when I was in my teenage years and I would go into a school, I'd be under rank and I would get more respect than when I would be a second or third dan. And I'm looking around like, and I'm like, what's going on here? It's not like when I say this, I'm talking about the default mannerisms and social interactions you should get when you go into a martial arts setting. There's decorum and a rank order that's just understood, and it means something. You know what I mean? And that was lost in the early 2000s already. So now we have that problem. So you continue on, and it's like, you have this circular thing where this, you know, the arts have been degrading over and over again because the people are degrading, and this is the real problem. People on martial arts, it's like nobody is qualified to say anything anymore because you're all morally bankrupt. You're all corrupt. You know, people were talking about my attitude this. I'm like, my attitude's nothing. My attitude is authentic. You guys are fucking fake. I mean, I would say 99% of people are fake or lying to themselves. And, you know, you want to be upset with me, I'm telling you the truth. I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? You're supposed to coddle your balls and, like, you know, wipe your ass for you? Like it's martial arts. So, like, what do people think this is? Like, you know, like, you know, I always say, like, you know, I learned martial arts from military and the gangs, because that's where the people who kept it, who needed it, and who kept it when it was illegal, you know what I mean? Or, you know, when the average person doesn't seem to have a need. Those are the people that kept it. But in those days, there was honor, like a basic honor code. And this honor code, it's not just martial arts. It's basic humanity that's been lost. It's so fundamental. And the thing is, nobody's doing anything about it. So what I'm getting at is, like, you know, there's so many problems that are mixed together here. I mean, I'm using me as an example, right? Because, you know, I'm just an example because this happens everywhere. You guys don't even know the difference between good, real, and fake. You know, like most of the people don't know the difference. You know, and your lineage and your certifications doesn't matter anymore. Beating the fuck out of people is not going to matter anymore, because I can, let's just say I decide, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to represent whatever kung fu, this thing, that. I beat the shit out of everybody. It's not going to be enough. It's still not going to be enough, because, you know, the people don't even, because they're looking at these like unnatural and logical things. They're not going to say, oh, well, you know, this guy went and he, you know, whoever it is, and he competed at this thing, or he was, they don't care. You know what I mean? They don't want a logical resolution. They want an emotional one that can never happen. You know what I mean? It's like, no matter who does what, it's never going to end. It doesn't matter what style it is. You know, UFC's been around for 30 years. People are still arguing about, you know, jiu-jitsu, this, and it doesn't end. It's stupid. But the point that I'm trying to get to is that if the fundamental reasoning and honor skills are so gone, like, what would you expect to happen here when like you can't even organize communities to come together to even like talk about technique? You know what I mean? Or like, how many Tai Chi schools have open meetups where they do like open push hands? Or how many of you guys like what do you guys do for your community? Like what do you do? Because you're not even doing it for yourself. I guess that's when it all boils down to it. People aren't real with themselves. None of you are authentic. Like you're authentic to a point, but your authenticity is an illusion. It's predicated on these shadow contracts that when you go outside of your circles they fall apart. But at the end of the day, like, what are we supposed to be doing with this? Like, you complain, oh, Tai Chi's this and this is broken, or this guy. All right, fine. What are you gonna do about it? Like, yeah, we can complain about it, but when you look at my channel, there's 100 videos, and all the stuff that people complain about that they don't know what to do. Oh, you don't know how this works, or this is fake. I've gone and did all the work for you guys. I've literally done all the fucking work that everybody, and like nobody wants to share it. We're talking about no, they want to look at a video and then take the whole thing and say, oh well, you have an attitude, so I like you, or just like you're like what? You people are so stupid. So it's just a mess. You know what I mean? How can we, as a group of any people, when fundamentally it's so broken, where I'll post cause my channel is obviously shadow banned to hell. I'll post a Ramsey Dewey video and it's immediately shared, but I'll post 100 videos teaching you the ninja secrets from Wudang Mountain, and like nobody gives a shit. I put I'll make a Discord, like you guys are trickled in. I appreciate the support, but it's like, help me help you. If you're not even helping yourselves, like how many of you guys research technique? How many of you guys actually go out of your way to like research and learn a technique and study and see how it works and like, what are you guys doing? I mean, like, I get the thing with admins and people like they love hate. Most of it is hate. You guys talk about. But how many of you actually went and said, all right, well, let me go talk to the guy, or let me go and try what he's doing? And, like, if you can't even reconcile your differences enough, your internal differences enough to examine someone else's technique openly, like it or not, there's something wrong, If you're not putting in as much effort to learn new techniques, refine techniques, or support people in the community, you're the problem. You can't complain about the Ramsey Dewey or the Adam Minzer people or me, say I like my fucking attitude. You know what? Why don't you start doing it? Okay? Why don't you go be the freaking online guy trying to help people out and give them the free techniques, and save the Tai Chi world. Let me see you do it. You know what I mean? Most of you guys don't even get up every day to do your form. You're gonna tell me like how things should be done. But that's where we're at. I just think that it's a mess that people in the Tai Chi community, after everything I've given away for free, would be much more entertained by me losing my shit on 2 videos than that was 110 videos that I'm giving you free lessons that I charge between $150 $250 an hour for. Okay. Like, you guys are broken. All right, man. Well, that's where I'm at right now.